Nikki Haley is running for president of the United States and is currently in the Republican primaries, where she trails former President Donald Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. For someone who's trailing behind so many other people, why are we talking about her today? Well, elections and polls are all about momentum, and right now, Haley has a lot of it. Starting the year at 3%, she reached 3.8% after the first Republican debate, but over the last couple weeks, she's risen up to 6.5%. And just to add fuel to the flame, a recent CNN poll gave us an idea of each candidate's chances against incumbent Joe Biden. And let's just say, there is a fair chance that we'll be seeing our first female president in 2024. Nimrata Nikki Haley was born to Indian immigrants on January 20th, 1972 in Bamberg, South Carolina.
You know, we were the only Indian family. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there.
In 2004, Haley was elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives until 2010, when she was elected to be the first female governor of South Carolina. Haley resigned as governor when chosen to become the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations as a part of the Trump administration, until stepping down at the end of 2018. Haley then announced her candidacy for president in February of 2023.
I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president.
So, what exactly does she believe, and what would she do as president? The rest of this video will be dedicated to Haley's policies and opinions according to her. We here at The Political Stalker won't be sharing any of our own opinions, but we would love to hear yours in the comments below. And while you're down there, go ahead and click on that subscribe button, as we do post videos like this one all the time. So what exactly does Nikki Haley think of the economy? As someone with an accounting background, she does believe that Biden and the Democrats are to blame for much of our economic struggles, but that the Republicans are actually to blame for most of it due to their frivolous spending during the COVID outbreak.
It's easy for us to go and say, oh, Biden did that to us. And Biden did do a lot of harm to us. Our Republicans did that to us too. A $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill with no accountability whatsoever.
Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt, and our kids are never going to forgive us for this.
She has repeatedly stated that we need to stop spending and borrowing money, and that she will veto any bills that would raise unnecessary spending.
I'm not a lawyer, I'm an accountant, and I think it's time we had an accountant in the White House.
How about the war in Ukraine? Many Republicans believe that we need to stop sending aid to Ukraine, since it's not a war that we really need to be involved in. Haley believes the opposite.
They need to know the difference between right and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil. Right. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug.
She also believes that if Russia wins this war, it will only result in future wars. She's wary of China invading Taiwan, Iran developing a bomb, and Russia going on to invade Poland and other neighboring countries.
Russia said Poland and the Baltics are next. If that happens, we're looking at a world war. This is about preventing war.
Haley believes that if they see the world rally behind Ukraine and help them win, then future wars and conflicts will likely be avoided. She would also make it a priority to keep China in check, as she believes China to be our #1 security threat. She wants to diversify who we do trade with and bring jobs and manufacturing back to the U.S. so that we are not as reliant on China.
Republican and Democrat presidents thought that if they were nice to China, China would want to be like us. That's narcissistic. China, bless you, China does not want to be like us. They want to be communist China. If China pulled the rug out from under us tomorrow, would we be ready?
A very concerning topic for many is abortion. Nikki Haley is unapologetically pro-life, but does not judge those who are pro-choice.
How do we save as many babies as we can and support as many mothers in that process as we do it?
She understands that some states will have different opinions on specific laws and thinks that they should be able to enact those laws, even if she doesn't necessarily agree with them.
We don't want unelected justices deciding something this personal. There are some states that have become more pro-life, and I welcome that. And there's some states that have been more on the abortion side. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's what happened.
She would like to enact a nationwide guideline on abortions, but doesn't want to mislead anyone, as she says other Republican candidates have done, by saying that a president can outlaw abortions.
In order to pass anything, you have to have a majority of the House, you have to have 60 Senate votes, and you have to have a signature of a president. Don't let any political party tell you that a Republican president can ban abortion laws in our country, because they can't any more than a Democrat president can ban our state laws.
She does want to come together with Congress and see what common ground could be found and start from there. And with a divisive topic like this one, she wants to enact things that most people already agree on.
We need to stop demonizing this issue. Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion?
Securing the border is one of Haley's highest priorities. She would end the catch and release policy in favor of catch and deport. She would require an E-Verify hiring program to ensure that everyone employed in the U.S. is here legally. She would cut funding to sanctuary cities and treat the cartel at the border as a terrorist organization. Another big concern is the amount of fentanyl coming through the border.
We had enough fentanyl cross that border that would kill every single American.
Fentanyl is a strong pain-relieving drug that causes death when taken incorrectly, causing an estimated 72,000 deaths in 2022 alone. Much of this fentanyl is being supplied by China.
Don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. And you sanction them and you let them know that we're onto them.
Nikki Haley is no stranger to the effects of gun violence, having dealt with the shooting of the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in June of 2015. She would not remove anyone's Second Amendment right to bear arms and specifies no limitations on weapons that can be owned. She did point out that the killer in the church shooting was able to buy a gun when he shouldn't have, saying the feds need to do their job in vetting those who should not have guns.
Then we need to make sure that the feds actually vet properly. When I talked about the church shooting that we had, that murderer, when he went to go buy a gun, because the feds didn't do it in the time allotted, they gave him the gun anyway. He should never have gotten it.
She would remove gun-free zones as they create targets for those who would commit mass shootings, and would secure schools by means of limiting points of entry and having police available at all times.
Secure our schools. There should be one point of entry. There should be a law enforcement officer at every school. We should make sure there's the clear bulletproof tape that we have at courthouses and airports. We should have that on our schools to protect them. And we should have a mental health counselor at every single school, not a guidance counselor, but a mental health counselor.
However, she says that the problem needs to be treated at the core, which is the mental health crisis.
17 of the last 18 mass shootings were all mental health related.
The government should be providing more resources to young people and others who are struggling with mental health and addictions instead of outlawing specific types of weapons.
We have to treat this like the crisis it is. We have to make mental health a #1 priority. You know, everybody wants to say, let's get rid of AR-15s. The reality is, even if you did that, it might make you feel good today. There's going to be another shooting next week.
Haley's former boss and current opponent, Donald Trump, tends to recall the events of January 6, 2021 in a generally positive light.
He thinks it was a beautiful day. I think it was a terrible day. I'll always stand by that.
She does not stand by Trump in his justification of what happened and sees a desire in people to have more integrity in their elections.
Voters want to have election integrity. There's nothing worse than when a country and their citizens don't trust the election system.
She does believe that there was a level of cheating and fraud in the 2020 election, but that it doesn't change the results. To combat this in the future, she would enact election integrity laws and require identification in order to vote.
We need to continue to have election integrity laws. If you've got to show picture ID to buy Sudafed, if you've got to show picture ID to get on a plane, you should have to show picture ID to protect the integrity of the election process.
Many citizens and politicians are calling for healthcare reform. So what does Haley think about it?
And our healthcare system needs to be broken. And the way you break it is you do it from a transparent situation. And that's from the insurance companies to the hospitals, to the doctors, to the pharmaceutical companies.
She sees a lack of transparency in the healthcare system that has allowed hospitals and insurance companies to make an outrageous amount of money, and that we need to drive down the price of healthcare. She wants to see more hospitals being built in order to create competition.
A hospital can say, I don't want any other hospital near me for X number of miles because it will lower the quality. No, when I was growing up in our family business, my mom used to always say the best thing that could happen to us is if our competitor went across the street, because our quality would go up, our prices would go down, and our service would be better. That's what we need in hospitals as well.
And calls attention to the rising profits of insurance companies and the lowering wages of the nurses and people actually doing the work.
Why are the insurance companies making all this money? Yet the professionals we need to give the care are not getting any.
Nikki Haley believes that climate change is real and that we all want a good and clean environment. She does not think that the way to get that is through government laws and policies that have been proposed in recent years.
You've seen a lot of these Green Deal policies that Biden has put into place that are not actually going to move the ball.
She argues that we do not currently have the infrastructure to accommodate these policies.
And I'm not just talking about charging stations. That's one of the issues. I'm not just talking about rural areas. That's one of the issues. I'm talking about electric vehicles are so heavy that our roads and bridges aren't capable of handling that. All of these things that they're doing in the name of saving the environment are actually going to hurt us down the road, and we need to be honest about that.
She was integral to pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, as she believed that the true culprits of climate change were in fact India and China.
We do care about clean air, clean water. We want to see that taken care of, but there's a right way to do it. If you want to go and really change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions.
Many conservatives criticize progressive movements as being woke, and Haley tends to agree with those criticisms. She believes in full transparency in our classrooms.
We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom.
And that schools should not be discussing gender with children at any stage.
The Don't Say Gay bill, right? You couldn't talk about gender to any child before the 3rd grade. I don't think that went far enough. They should not be talking to our kids about gender, period. That's what parents talk to their kids about, not in school.
She also sees the whole of the United States being forced to accommodate a small minority in many issues, referring mostly to the transgender community.
All of these things that are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans, it's too much. I mean, the idea that we have biological boys playing in girls' sports, it is the women's issue of our time.
However, she does believe that people should be allowed to do what they want with their own lives and that they still need to be dealt with fairly. However, that these should be the exception to the rule, not that they should overtake the whole conversation and push their needs on everyone else.
It's not that people don't think in America you should live the way you want to live. I want everybody to live the way they want to live. But stop pushing your views on everybody else.
A few other things Haley has commented on in the past is that AI shouldn't be heavily regulated, though we do need to guardrail it. We need to take care of those who take care of us.
Take care of those who take care of you. And America hasn't done that.
Even going so far as to say,
my way of fixing this is I think every member of Congress should have to get their health care from the VA.
Haley is a military spouse whose husband is currently on a year-long deployment overseas, making the treatment of military veterans very high on her priority list. She values faith and conscience and service and is running for president to make a better future for her 2 young adult children.
For the first time in our country, 78% of Americans have said they don't think that their children will live as good of a life as them. We've got a country to save. That's why we have to have a new generational leader. We've got to go and fix this country and go back to the values that have made us great. And when we do that, when we really focus back on faith and family and country and the idea that America is the best country in the world, that's when our best days are to come.
Nikki Haley has a long way to go to make it to the presidency, but she has a long time to get there and currently has the momentum moving in her favor. Touching back on that recent poll by CNN, all of the Republican candidates are neck and neck with Biden in a potential election, except for Nikki Haley, who currently leads by a huge 6 points, 49 to 43%. While it is still early and that may not seem like much, it sure adds a lot of credibility to her claim that she can beat the incumbent Joe Biden and win back the White House for Republicans.
I will beat Joe Biden, and he knows that. I will strengthen our economy, and we'll bring this inflation down. We will put transparency in the classroom. We will secure our borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud.
She would not only be the first woman president, but the first Asian American president as well. Please let us know what you think about Nikki Haley and if you learned something about her today. Also consider subscribing to the Political Stalker for more information about politics and everything leading up to this election. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Political Stalker, and we will see you next time.